The reason you can't focus is that modern technology is quite literally being designed to ensure that you can't. It is being designed to destroy your ability to focus. Okay, because if they destroy your ability to focus, then that means you're more likely to revert to those short form content platforms, TikTok, YouTube, Shorts, Instagram Reels, etc. Now, a very, very common problem that I see nowadays, and I suffered from this for a very long time, this occurs a lot, especially in teenagers, is we can't focus on anything anymore. We're really fucking bad at focusing on things, like we try to focus in class, but we get bombarded by random thoughts that are completely irrelevant, by the way, and as a result, we end up zoning out for 15 minutes to the degree that we have absolutely no clue what was said for half the lesson. Okay. And as a result, do you think we're doing well on our tests? Do you think we have a solid grasp of the content that's being delivered to us? Absolutely not. Okay. Even when talking to our friends, we're being distracted by completely irrelevant thoughts, or something happening over their shoulder, or whatever. We're not focusing on what they're really saying. And as a result, our work life, our relationships, they're just so much less fulfilling than they could be, just because of this one, small issue of focus. Literally, all it takes is a couple practices and some conscious effort to fix this. I have a lot of experience with this. I used to embody exactly what I'm talking about right now. I used to, I had no motivation for school. And then even when I did have motivation for school, I wouldn't be able to just sit down and focus on what was being taught. And so I did awfully on every exam. And it felt awful. Even when I was trying to sit down, even when I had the motivation to sit down and do work at home, I'd constantly be distracted by my phone. I'd be messaging my friends, I would be going on TikTok, I'd be listening to really stimulating music. And even when I was talking to my friends in person, I couldn't pay attention to what they were saying, because I had so many random, half-formed thoughts going on at the back of my head. And it's awful. It's just a worse way to live. I can simplify it down to that. Not being able to focus on what it is that you want to focus on is just a worse way to live. Okay? Flash to now. I'm going to sound like I'm sucking myself off, but, I can focus for 2 hours at a time or more. I can have a really connected conversation with one of my friends and just be present the whole time, most of the time. Obviously, sometimes I still get distracted, of course, human nature. But my point is, there is a very clear path that you can take to make the same transition that I did. And let me tell you, it feels great. It feels absolutely amazing. My life is so much better now. My relationships are better because I can actually focus on what the people are saying when I'm talking to them. My work life is better because I can really focus on what's going on there. I'm just so much more fulfilled. So, what is the path that I took to make that transition, and what can you do to see the same change in your life? Well, number one, you have to... Okay, let me quickly explain what happens when you eat a big meal. I know it seems quite random, but when you eat a big meal, basically, you need to digest a lot of food, right? So your body will send a lot of blood to your gut, which diverts blood away from your brain, which means your brain works less. It works worse, which means you'll be a lot worse at focusing. Even after developing my focus for so long, I still really struggle to focus anytime I've eaten a really big meal beforehand. And because it's diverted, because you can't, yeah, that's it. So what this means is, ideally, the work that's really important to you, put it at the very start of your day, say before you go to school or before you have breakfast, whatever. So you can, deliver as much of your conscious attention to it as possible before, you have that first meal and then you're less able to focus after that. It's quite a small change, but it makes a massive difference, trust me. Now, number 2, just turn your phone off. This is such a massive improvement, and it's really easy to do. It does take a bit of discipline though, because we're all very attached to our phones. But if you literally just get into the habit of like turning your phone off, and say when you're at school, putting it in your bag instead of your pocket, or putting it in a different room when you're working at home, and just not having it on you when you're talking to people, it means that's one less really big distraction that's constantly there around you, like begging for your attention. And so it'll just make it a lot easier to properly focus on what it is that you're trying to do. Okay. Now, so those are the short-term solutions. Those are the immediate steps you can put into practice to focus, a little bit more in each situation. Now, how do we rewire our brains to actually focus better? How do we reshape our brains and practice focusing so that it just comes more naturally to us, even without using these external sort of, tips and tricks? Well, number 1, this is going to be very difficult, but you need to stop consuming short form content. So what is that? It's TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, Instagram posts, memes, stuff like that, right? Those things where you view one piece of content, okay, and then you immediately scroll on to the next, and you spend, a short period of time looking at each before you move on to the next. Because basically what you're doing to your brain when you do that over and over again is you're teaching your brain that a large part of your life requires you to, shift your attention after having spent a few seconds, maybe 30 seconds on it, right? And what that will do is once you've been focusing on something for 30 seconds, your brain will naturally switch attention. So even when you're doing that work that requires you to focus for maybe 2 hours straight, or say just 1 hour, say it's like a regular school lesson, where even when you're doing that work that requires focus for an extended period of time, your brain's naturally going to want to revert to refocusing every 30 seconds. And so that's why so constantly you get bombarded by these random thoughts, and even when you try to focus, you can't focus for more than 20-30 seconds. Okay. Now, number 4, a lot of you will have preconceptions about this, but meditation. It sounds spiritual and maybe not so scientific. That was the perception that I had when I first got introduced to it, but I've learned since then, through learning more about it and through putting it into practice in my own life, that it is simply a very effective focus practice. It is genuinely no more than that. You don't have to focus on the third eye or try to dissolve consciousness or any of this wishy-washy stuff. You literally, you set a timer for 3 minutes to start off. Ideally, after maybe a week or so, you want to scale up to 10 minutes, and that'll be your consistent practice. But to start off, just go for 3 minutes. Set a timer for 3 minutes. Sit on the floor, lie down, whatever you want. Close your eyes and just focus on the breath going in and out of one of your nostrils for that time. It is quite literally that simple. So for me, it's one of the first things I do in the morning. So I'll go into my room, I will sit down with my back against the bed, I will set a timer for 10 minutes, close my eyes, and I literally just focus on the sensation of breath going in and out of my right nostril for that entire time. That is all I have to do. That is all you have to do. And you only have to do it for 3 minutes. Easy, right? What this does basically is, it's basically teaching your brain that it's similar to what I discussed before. It's basically teaching your brain that a large part of your life requires you to focus very intensely for an extended period of time. So the more you do this, the more often you do this, and the longer the period of time that you do this for, each time you do it, you're rewiring your brain to focus with a higher intensity and for longer. I should mention as well, for that meditation practice, when you get random thoughts, which you most certainly will, that is actually a good thing. Every time you get a random thought and you bring your attention back to your breath, that it's like doing essentially 1 rep in the gym. So every time you do that, you're training your brain to refocus faster, which is a very large part of having a really deep intensity of focus. If you found this video useful, if you found it enlightening, if you found it helpful, if you found it cleared up some confusion, please subscribe. I post free content just like this every single day for guys exactly like you. Thank you very much.